Hello, hello. Welcome to the Five Talents Podcast. I'm your host, Abel Pacheco. I interview the top commercial real estate investors and industry experts so you can learn from their experiences. So if you're an investor, a high W-2 earner, or real estate or tech sales professional that wants to invest in real estate without having to manage properties or leave your day job, then this podcast is for you. Or if you're already investing in real estate, but you're doing it part-time and you want to become a full-time multifamily or full-time commercial real estate investor, this podcast is for you too. You're going to learn a ton. You will learn from real-life multifamily investors and other professionals in the industry. They're going to share their blueprints for success, and I'm super excited that you're here. So I hope you enjoy the show. All right. Hello. Abel Pacheco here, your host for the Five Talents Podcast. We're super excited today as we have an amazing guest, Mr. Chris Roberts. First, thank you for joining. Thanks, Chris.
Thanks, Abel. I appreciate it, man. Thanks for the opportunity.
Yeah, I'm excited for for our listeners, our guest. I'm very humbled and appreciative that you would take a few minutes out of your day with everything you have going on and join us for a great conversation. So for those that don't know Chris, let me give a few, bullet points for his background. So Chris is the CEO of Sterling Rhino Capital. He's a full-time entrepreneur and investor since about 2007. He owns and operates, sales and marketing companies that was acquired annual sales of $7.2 million. This was back in 2007. And for the past 13 years, his team has basically grew that business to $24 million. And by 2019, Chris, you ran a property management business. You did that really was real estate, owning rentals. You're a minority partner of point of sale software company, High Trek POS, proven track record. Man, you've done a ton of a ton of very successful businesses. Each of your, areas of success, I'm sure builds on each other. And then, what I was kind of most excited about to hear, just in a really quick conversation with me and Chris prior, was that, man, so he's an author of this a really amazing book. You've earned it. I'm going to go download it, check it out, because the proceeds will go to Feeding America. They've fed hundreds and thousands of people, I think, literally, right? So anyways, let me turn it over to you to really do your introduction a little bit more justice, because you've done a number of things, and we're talking about commercial real estate, but all this stuff kind of feeds back into how you channel and drive one success on top of another. So man, tell us a little bit about your background. Tell us about your story.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for the intro, Abel. And I'll keep it as short as possible, because like you said, there's a lot of stuff in there. But I think at the end of the day, what I like about telling the story of my career and history and just building businesses and things like that is it set a great foundation for the syndication process and building the multifamily assets. And I have a pretty diverse business background and have been an entrepreneur for over 20 years now. And those things obviously help build the foundation for success in multifamily, but also in life. And I'm a firm believer in continual education and just, constantly learning, and then obviously teaching and sharing others so that you can get better and better at it and refine your process. And obviously we love giving back. We do the Feeding America thing, which has been really, really, really rewarding to see the difference that we've made. I mean, I think right now we're just going to be over by the end of the year, 200,000 people. I mean, that's literally like 3 football stadiums. It's really cool to be able to say that. We have a goal of 1 million people. But as far as the businesses go, I was fortunate. I started out as a young person, struggled, had a lot of challenges as a kid growing up in the neighborhoods I grew up in, was on my own at a very young age, and then came across someone who would become a great mentor to me. That person started me on the right path with lots of books and really showed me the way with regard to no excuses, put your head down, just put in the work, and eventually things will work out as long as you can outwork everybody around you. And I really took that to heart. And that's eventually how I built a sales career and then developed that into, obviously today, $25 million company. And that's revenues. It's obviously we're not profiting $25 million, but we've created lots of streams of income and lots of different business models from that original sales and marketing company. And then the point of sale software was developed off of partnering with someone on a charity board that I knew for a couple of years, who had recently sold his company for over $100 million. And I was jumping all over partnering with him on something, because obviously he was very successful as well. And I'm just one of those people who is constantly moving. And I really believe that, I think we all have this vision at first of, I want to open a coffee shop because I love coffee. So we open a coffee shop, and then maybe it works out or it doesn't. But I'm a firm believer in that you have to really get outside your comfort zone constantly, and you have to constantly go against the grain to really find what you're made of, right? You really have to try different things, which is why I've diversified into lots of different segments. I've invested in stocks, real estate, businesses, brick and mortar, software, and I love all of them, and they haven't come without their challenges, right? I mean, you have challenges in business. We're obviously highlighting the successes, but I look at all those challenges as opportunities to teach me on the next venture that we go into. So I love it. I love sharing and helping. And if there's anything I can ever do for you or your audience, I'm literally an email away. So.
All right. And that's great. That's so many things to agree with, I think, from my perspective. And some areas that I resonated highly with on the sales side. I'm a sales guy for the past 20 years. And I've been investing, in real estate for 12 of those on the, on the side, my side hustle. That was kind of what I've always done, but it was always sales, leading teams, big funnels in the top end, heavy marketing, put them in the funnel, and then help as many customers as we can. And those top line revenues are what, it's the lifeline or the lifeblood of every single company. And if you can, have success on that front end, you realize, oh, I can go and apply some of the same, principles, tactics, strategies, building a team, hiring a team, recruiting the right people, getting the right people around you to have success. And then you can go apply those to different areas of other businesses, just like you've done. And now real estate, which is super, super awesome and encouraging. And then, the commercial real estate, which we didn't really even touch on yet, which I'm excited because Chris, you're invested, and I think hopefully I get this right, passive and actively, as a passive investor and active investor in about 2,100 doors. This is across the U.S. and multiple different properties. Is that correct?
Yeah, different asset classes, including single families, duplexes, multifamilies. I've done land, new construction. I'm kind of a little bit all over the place. As I said, I wanted to know what I didn't know, and have been fortunate to have some pretty good returns, above average in all those asset classes.
Right on. That's awesome. And then you guys recently closed on a COVID deal, 100+ unit, nice, rough, probably hard to close during COVID year. So maybe we could talk about that also. Is that right?
Yeah, absolutely. We closed 2 deals during COVID.
2 deals.
One was in March and one was in September, 100+ units. It was challenging.
Was it March like the 1st or March like the 25th? Because
I
2 different times, right?
Oh, night and day. I won't dive in too much on this one, but I would tell you this. Yeah. We were literally sitting in the closing office with the checks and everything ready to go. And the text message came in from the broker saying that 80% of the banks had just pulled out from loans, and everyone had frozen everything because it literally had just started, right? And we had closed within, I don't know, this is not a joke, within 10 minutes of our bank almost pulling out. And this was after all the other challenges as it started. So yeah.
Fun stuff. Well, with the COVID year, this is a good one. So let's dive in with, what you're doing today, because a lot of times, we do start with backgrounds, and I, if you don't mind, I'd love to kind of work backwards. So you said you've done a number of different assets, a number of different asset classes. Where are you headed next? And maybe we can talk about how you got there and why.
Yeah, absolutely. We are highly focused on Class C and B value add properties. And the main reason we focus on those is we just see, as much as there's more challenges on the front end with those properties, more renovation, a working class tenant base where you might have a little bit higher vacancy in some cases, or a lower average household income. We just see that there's usually 2 to 3 opportunities to renovate and or execute your business plan. And then same thing with the exit. We just feel like we have more opportunity in that space. Although Class B and C, upper Class B and A, I'm sorry, might be a little more stable. Some people feel more comfortable with that. It's just that's where we landed, and we feel real good about that. And those are the assets that we've been closing lately, and are looking forward to closing more. We put LOIs in today, actually, this morning on some deals. So that's kind of where we are, is in the 100+ unit space, Class B, Class C value add, and really like multifamily.
All right. Well, good luck on on the LOIs that are out. What markets are you guys investing in or making offers in at this point?
Sure. We invest in the Southeast, but I have property in the Northwest and also in slightly in the Northeast over in the Virginia area. And obviously with COVID and all the challenges, we've had to look a little bit outside our markets, but we just feel like the Southeast, there's a lot of opportunity there, especially if you have relationships and a team built out. And so we're looking there, but we get deals thrown in from all over the place. And if it's right and we can put the right team together there on the ground, then we'll definitely look at something somewhere else.
That's great. Well, tell us a little bit about your team. So I'm trying to put maybe a paradigm or a view or a lens for passive investors that are listening to the show. So those passive investors are, looking at different things to be aware of as I'm putting my money in passively. And then I think we have another part of our following that's an active investor, maybe the first, second, third time active investor that they're trying to get the wisdom or the pearls, from this. So, I would say kind of gauge the answers or responses, for those two paradigms, if you could. But tell us about your team so that we understand, this is how Chris is doing it today. What does your team look like, and how do you guys do deals?
Yeah, absolutely. So, when someone starts in this space, let's address the GP or the active investor side of things.
Mm-hmm.
When someone generally gets into this space, it's not unlike, let's say, buying a flip or a single family that you want to turn into a rental. And you have this mindset of, I'm going to go and I'm going to start swinging hammers, and I'm going to underwrite the deal, and I'm going to close the deal, and I'm going to put it on the market, and I'm probably going to self-manage, and so on and so forth. It's not unlike that process when a lot of people start. They think, I want to be a syndicator, and I'm going to go and I'm going to start a syndication business. But I would tell you that, again, coming from someone who's experienced in the business world and has started many businesses, it's not that simple. There's a lot of moving parts. There's a lot of legality. There's a lot of cost if you want to do it right. And so what I encourage people to do as early as possible is a couple of things. But one is identify your own value proposition. Who are you to the world? Who are you to partners? Who are you to a broker or a deal? And once you identify that, okay, my value proposition is, let's just say, for example, I have good credit and I have $100,000 liquid, right? But I'm not very good at spreadsheets. And so you have to figure out quickly within these think tanks, these meetups, these masterminds, these mentor programs, is there anyone else in there that might complement that process that I'm significantly lacking in, or that I could use improvement in? And that way that person can come along with you and maybe help you start your business. Now, I know it sounds easy, and I've had failed partnerships. I've had some very successful partnerships. And today I have great partnerships with my counterparts. But I would tell you that there is strength in numbers. And so you don't have to go it alone. And it's no different than, let's say, if you bought a single family flip or something, you would partner with someone who was going to lend you the money. Maybe you partner with a contractor and you all do something together. And that's how you can exponentially grow. So I'm not discouraging someone from trying to do these things on their own. But on the GP side of things, if you want to be a syndicator, you really have to identify what your strengths are. And then maybe some people in your circle of influence that have strengths that you could put together, and then go and maybe attack some deals as a team. There's a lot of power in team, and I could do deals on my own, but I could not imagine doing them on my own. I love having a solid team. Everyone knows their roles and goals. Everyone executes. And then I'm the 30,000 foot view guy that puts it all together. And I just wouldn't have it any other way, but you got to have the right team members.
Yeah. I love that response. That's, I've interviewed a ton of people now, and one of the most common traits that I see that lead to a lot of success, at least with commercial multifamily and probably a lot of just business in general, is like you have to have an amazing team, a good team around you. Stronger you are, the better you're going to perform, the more you're going to go be able to do. And the way I like the way you said it was, identify your strengths, identify your value proposition, and know that. And if you're listening, and if you're a new active partner or general partner, ask some people that are close to you. Ask people that are around you. They don't necessarily have to be commercial real estate people. They know you pretty well, and ask them what some of your strengths and weaknesses are. And then you take the commercial real estate paradigm to what Chris is mentioning. And now as you're looking out, you're trying to partner with people that will, basically help you overcome those weaknesses, right, in your partnership. So,
Right.
yeah.
Yeah. And Al, if I can, I'll talk on the LP side, because you'd asked me GPLP. I'll talk on that as well.
Please.
But I actually, if you don't mind, I'd like to talk about paradigm real quick, because you mentioned
Yeah,
it.
let's jump in, man.
Yeah,
That's great.
a paradigm is a great term I love, and I don't hear it very often. And it's basically a reflection of the way you live based on your experience, right? A paradigm is your habits. It's the way you're used to doing things. And I think what you say about the word paradigm is very relevant in today's world. And that's why I talk about value proposition, is because our paradigm is to do what we know, what we're comfortable with, what our habits tell us to do, right? So we swing the hammers, we put our head in, we mow the lawn for $50, right? When it took us 4 hours, when we could have hired someone for $20, right? And so on and so forth. And I don't want to go down that rabbit hole, but it's interesting. We really need to get out of our own way and understand what is our value proposition and our strength, and reinvent the paradigm, shift the paradigm, and allow us and others to come in and then execute together. So I love that you brought that up, because I talk about that a lot, actually, the word paradigm, and how we need to get people to shift those paradigms to change the way they see the world. It's great stuff. And then on the LP side, so if I may, you'd mentioned, on the LP side, what do people do, or what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, please.
And what I would tell you on the LP side of things is it goes back to when I started in business, and my mentor, one of my mentors long ago, had shown me, this strong work ethic mindset. He said, hey, you need to read these books, but you also need to execute. You need to show up. And what was amazing is early on, I realized that if I just showed up and I outworked everybody and I hustled, I would make more money than most people, right? I may be putting in more hours, but it didn't matter, because the net result was the net result, right? And so I had this mindset of no excuses, and I hustled, and I realized that people around me, whether they were more educated or they had the pedigree or they had whatever it may be, it didn't matter, because there are only so many people in this population that really want to put in the work. Okay. Now that they will grind 18 hours a day, 7 days a week, until the job is done, until the goals are hit, until they win. There's only so many of us that will do that. And I say us because I know I'm one of those people, because I answer the phone at 11 o'clock at night for my clients. I'm working on the weekends. And people are often shocked by it. And I'm like, why are you shocked by it? It doesn't shock me. I love it, right? I love what I do. And the reason this is relevant to LPs is because you find that LPs roles are a non-active role. And that doesn't mean that they are not capable of being those 5%ers that will put in 20 hours a day, 7 days a week. Maybe they have a big family and they have to, tend to the kids and things like that. Or maybe they're just very busy and focused on their career, and they want some higher than average returns, but they don't want to put in that work. Or maybe they're the type of people that just aren't capable of putting in that work, let's say, right? Either way, they're not those people that are going to be out there putting in 18 hours a day and swinging hammers and grinding and managing contractors. So the LP side of things goes back to our whole sort of vision, if you will, at Sterling Rhino is, we want to create an early retirement environment for people where they can retire on their own terms. Now, that doesn't mean they have to retire, but if they want to, they should be able to by investing in these asset classes in a fairly short period of time if they do it right. And so we try to educate them on how they can do that. Okay. And then we show them the power of the cash flow. Now, let's face it, it's nice to have wealth. It's nice to have, a bunch of assets and all that. But the real power in retirement or in wealth is cash flow. And most real estate people know that. That's, if you look at any of the top wealthy people in the world, I think it's a huge number, like 80 some odd percent own a lot of real estate, right? There's no secret there. So what I tell LPs is, it's okay to not be active, right? Just make sure that your money is working as hard as it possibly can for you, and have a cash flow mindset so that you can set those goals early and strive to get that cash flow model figured out, and not just, oh, I've got $1 million in my retirement 401k. I'm going to be just fine, because you're not going to be just fine. Right. And so we try to just teach people about the cash flow method, and then obviously show them how they could retire early. And we teach those principles. So
I love all of those things. Kind of working backwards, right? The paradigm that I wrote down and that I said, and we said, you know where I got that from, and it's always stuck with me, like just still not right now. Stephen Covey's book, which is 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. For those that haven't read it, it's just an old classic. There's a story in there. And the story kind of reflects, well, what is this? What do you mean by paradigm? And I like the way you said it, Chris. It's a reflection of the way you see things, because the story in this book was, there is, on a subway train or whatever, there's a bunch of kids, 2 or 3 kids, and they're, going crazy. A 5-year-old, a 10-year-old, screaming, yelling, all, getting, wound up. And they turn the entire subway train into this frantic, worried, anxiety, nervous, train. And these 2 or 3 kids did that. And everyone's looking at the father like, why don't you get your kids? Your kids are just, causing a ruckus in here. And somebody goes up to him and said, hey, did you, why don't you do something about your children? And he looks up from this blank stare, and he tells, the man or whoever addresses him and says, oh, are they making a ruckus? I'm sorry. I didn't even realize it. See, the thing is, we just lost my wife and their mother, earlier today, or, yesterday. And I don't even know how to process this in this moment. So I'm sorry. Let me get my children. And you're thinking about this paradigm. It's like, oh man, it's night and day. When you have a different paradigm about you, your whole world changes. And now you can see it from their eyes, right? Where before you couldn't. So as an investor, active or passive, that's where you're like, man, you've got this new paradigm about you, that you don't have to work every day for the rest of your life, like my parents, are unfortunately in this situation. So man, it's good stuff. I'm glad you hit it up again.
I love that you brought that book up, because that is my How to Win Friends and Influence People and 7 Habits are two of my favorite. 7 Habits is probably my favorite, but 2 of my favorite books of all time. And my original mentor at 18 years old actually gave me the How to Win Friends and Influence People. But I want to leave your listeners with one more nugget out of that book.
Please, I
love that book. Love it. And I encourage anyone to read it 10 times, because I have. There's a saying in there that he has, and it's called a satisfied need no longer motivates. He's got many of them. One of them is love the feeling is the fruit of love the verb. There's a ton of them, but
I like that one. That was a good one.
Yeah. A satisfied need no longer motivates. This is why this is relevant to your listeners. I think a lot of us want to control our lives, especially when we get older and we're sore and we're tired, and we have medical bills and things like that coming in. But most of us are not cognizant of the sacrifice it takes today. Okay. And the reason I bring that up is because that satisfied need no longer motivates set the tone, believe it or not, for my real estate career. And this is why that was so relevant. I used my car payments to pay my first down payment for a piece of property that was a foreclosed property that got me into the real estate game. And that mindset came from that saying. Okay. A satisfied need no longer motivates. And what it basically means is don't go buy things because 6 months later, you're going to get tired of them. You're not going to appreciate them. You're not going to put the same time and energy, and you're going to be looking for the next shiny thing to buy, right? And it doesn't motivate you anymore. And so I always thought about that as I would look to buy things. And I do that even today with real estate. Sometimes there's deals that just seem, oh man, we just got to get a deal. We got to get things going. No, you don't. You got to get the right deal, right? And so what I did is I drove the same car for 12 years, and I saved those car payments after 5 years. And then I put the money down and I renovated, and I did it again 6 months later. I did it again 6 months later. And that's literally how I bought my first property was by not letting those shiny things motivate me and just having a little bit of sacrifice while a lot of my friends were buying fancy cars and fancy houses. And so you don't have to live off of ketchup packets at McDonald's, right?
Mm-hmm,
I mean, I'm not talking sacrifice where you give up your Starbucks. I mean, gosh, who would do that? But there are some things that you can sacrifice and you'll be just fine. And what's crazy is 10, 15 years down the road, when you have millions of dollars in net worth and tens of millions in assets, or who knows what, the sky is the limit. All those fancy things 10, 15 years before, you won't even be thinking about, and they won't matter. But if you don't set that mindset and change those paradigms early, you'll never get there. So sorry about the long-winded comment, but I feel so passionate about that because we don't talk enough about that with people, especially our youth. And there's not enough sort of guidance or mentorship going out there on the finances. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. I love it. Every bit of it. This is an amazing conversation. I'm excited that our listeners get to hear some of these things. The Dale Carnegie book, How to Win Friends and Influence People. I think that was my number one. Also, that was like the first self-help, motivational, however you want to call it, book. I was probably like 24, 25. One of my regional manager directors at Cutco, I don't know if you've heard of Cutco
Oh
knives,
yeah.
but I sold Cutco knives for like 6 years. But that's where my director gave this to me, and he goes, "Hey, this, you should check this out." And that's like management 101, interpersonal relationship 101. Just one probably 200 and 300 level, really, when you think about it. But it's an amazing book. There's a lot of nuggets and lessons there. Hello. You're listening to the 5 Talents Podcast. I'm your host, Abel Pacheco. If you're enjoying this podcast, then I know you're serious about achieving financial freedom. Are you ready to create your own path through multifamily investing for yourself and your family? Then I know you're going to appreciate our Investor's Guide to Multifamily Investing. It's titled Tackling Commercial Real Estate the Easy Way. We use this guide to invest ourselves in $93 million worth of real estate. So we're going to show you the basic mechanics of multifamily syndications and how to evaluate your next passive investment opportunity. So the best part, if you subscribe to our podcast now, leave us a review and a rating. I'm going to give you a free copy of our ebook. So please take a moment to do that now. Once you've done that, go to 5tcre.com/ebook, 5tcre.com/ebook. Make sure to let us know you left a review, and we're going to send you a free copy. So thank you so much for subscribing to the 5 Talents Podcast. We really appreciate it. One of the other things you said, before we jumped into Paradigm too, was like showing up and working hard. It's not that or the way you described it was, man, you outworked everyone. And the way I describe it too, I I was never really, and I'm not the smartest guy in most of the rooms that I'm in. And I try to actually now I purposely try to not be. I want to be in a room with like some amazing people that I can learn from. But when I was younger, it wasn't that I wasn't, I didn't, really understand the strategy, some of the tactics, how people thought of coming at this. I was like, man, that's a brilliant idea. Where I was the guy that just said, you know what, that is a brilliant idea. I'm going to go do that. And I'm going to hit that button 1,000 times. And where the guy behind me has only hit it 50 or 100, I'm going to hit it 1,000. And I know by the law of, the law of metrics, mechanics, numbers, whatever you want to call it, if you hit it 1,000 times, 10% of them are going to hit, and there's 100. And, before the person who's thinking about doing 10, you've already done 1,000 and you're going to win. So anyways, I love that mindset to you.
That's great.
Yeah. Well, this is a good conversation, man. We haven't even really hit the commercial real estate hard, but it's good. But mindset, this is a cliche thing, but it's like so true. Mindset is 80-90% of what we do. And it just really is. Once you learn the mechanics, you get some education and mentorship and, coaching, or you learn from podcasts or read books, then you go apply it. Now it's just being able to tackle that, that mindset of you can go do it. Yeah. Remove the blinders, take the limiting, throttle off the limiting beliefs and go get it done. So how did you do it, Chris? How did you do this? And maybe give, our listeners some maybe tactical steps, maybe 1, 2, 3, some simple things that I can go away from this conversation and say, oh, I'm going to take some action. Here's what I'm going to do.
Absolutely. Well, great question. And, everyone has to find their own, they call it the why, right? Or a vision statement, a mission statement, or whatever. Everyone has to have something that drives them internally. Now, for me, when I was younger, I grew up in some rough environments. I stood in food lines. I mean, I really struggled, which is why I'm so passionate about giving back to Feeding America today, right? I mean, because I was that person that relied on that. Now, today, you would never know that. You would never know that, which it doesn't really matter, right? It's not what defines me, okay? So what I tell people is don't let your environment or your circumstances define you. Actually, my mantra is, I am not a victim of my environment or my circumstances. I am the result of my actions and my attitude. And I don't have any time for fear in my life because I'm out achieving my dreams. Right. So that's my mantra. That's the way I live. And I tell people first, don't live in the world you're living in. Live in the world you want to be living in. Right. Because oftentimes we get caught up in the day to day. And so if you want to achieve success, you want to buy an apartment building, you want to have a good relationship, it doesn't matter. You have to put in the work. And here's what I tell people. It starts off with a vision, a mission, a why, whatever you want to call it. You have to have something internally that inspires you. It doesn't temporarily motivate you. It inspires you to keep going until you get there, right? Now, that might be poverty. It might be a sick family member. It might be financial freedom, wealth, cash flow, fancy car, whatever it is that inspires you. You've got to keep that on your wall. You've got to keep telling yourself, my mantra is what I created to inspire me all the time. Because when I say it, it gets me grounded again. And I say, this is why I'm doing this. Okay, so that's the start. The next thing you have to do is identify what is it that's going to get you there. Maybe again, it's single families, it's multifamilies, it's investing in a business. Whatever it is fine. Okay, so you have this place you want to be, this business you want to have, this asset you want to buy. But you have to figure out how you're going to get there, right? Which is why I always tell people, figure out your value proposition. Okay, so I figured that out. These are my strengths. Great. Okay, then you have your vision board. This is how I'm going to utilize my strengths, build my team to execute this plan that's on the vision board. And then what you do from there is you put in more work than you ever thought you were capable of. And this is where people get lost.
Yeah.
Right? They
Yes,
figure,
100%.
okay, I put in the beginning. I'm okay. I read the book. Okay, so where's my success? Like I read the book. Right?
I paid the money.
Yeah.
I got my ticket.
I paid the money.
I sat down in classes.
I was VIP in the front row and I'm not successful yet. What's going on? And what I tell them is you have to push yourself beyond what you ever thought you were capable of doing. And I'm going to give you an example. Have you ever run a mile? I use this sometimes and ran it as fast as you could just to see how fast you could run. I mean, as though your life depended on it. You might be shocked at how fast you can run, right? Have you ever written notes down in a book to see if you're actually a decent writer, right? Have you ever tried to get a job that you thought there's no way I could get that job? But guess what? You got in the interview and you smashed it and they loved you. So they hired you because you had that gift of gab and that skill set that earned your position in there, right? It wasn't a degree. It wasn't something else. Have you ever done that? Have you ever gotten really uncomfortable? It's like the Navy SEALs have this great saying, right? And it's basically embrace the suck. And that's what entrepreneurship and successful businesses are all about. Embrace the suck, get outside your comfort zone and push yourself. And if you do that, along with those other things I noted, you will find some degree of success that is your success. Don't chase Tony Robbins, right? Don't chase Bill Gates, right? Don't chase Joe Fairless. He's awesome, but not everybody's going to have $1 billion in real estate. You know what I'm saying? It's okay. You might someday, but be realistic and go out there and outwork everybody. And if you had a third of the success of some of those people, you'd be spectacular, right? And you'd be achieving your dreams. So those are some of the things I would say could get you there, but it's going to take a lot of work and sacrifice. There's no doubt. There's no shortcut.
I agree. I love those bullet points. Mission, vision, why, identify how you're going to go get there. Your vision board, your mindset, and then just better get to work. Better get to work.
Yes.
This is a fun conversation, Chris. You have my mind spinning to all these old memories. When I was working at Cutco, we started an office in a new city, and I was the, I don't know, whatever, branch manager, district manager, whatever. And I started out there, and I remember this is like I was 21-ish, and my regional manager at the time, right, it was not internet hardcore crazy. I don't know. It was like, go put an ad in the newspaper, in the classifieds. And that's what I did. And I recruited a bunch of people from that ad. But what we also did was we made a bunch of flyers, paper flyers. And everyone was like, well, how many flyers do you want? And somebody said 10,000. Someone said 5,000. Someone said whatever. And I looked in and I was like, okay, I want as many as they all got together, and I'm going to go pass all these out. And that's like, these were my, in my cohort, they were starting their offices in their own cities. And I knew that if I just outworked them, if I passed out as many flyers as all of them together, that I would probably have as many new recruits, people, we were a recruiting office basically at Cutco. We're trying to get as many 18 to 24-year-old kids to come in, and those are our sales recruits for the summer. And that's what we did. And I wore the shoes, the sole of my shoes out that summer,
It's awesome.
and passing out flyers. And I'd go to work at like 8 in the morning. I leave at 5, and that was in the office. But before, I would wake up at 5 or 6 in the morning, pass out flyers. And then after 5, 6 o'clock, we would do that till 10 or 11 at night. And when we got on our first, couple of phone calls, they were like, "How many flyers did you pass out?" And, everybody would go around the room and they're like, "Oh, I did 100. I did 1,000. I was like, "Oh, okay, cool. How many did you do?" I think we're going to need another box, because, we passed out our first 10,000, and it was like, 2 weeks in or something. And so I just, those are all the memories that you're bringing back, man. This is a great conversation, Chris.
I love that. And I appreciate that. I agree. It's a lot of fun to jam about what inspires people and how to help people figure out how to drive their own strong work ethic and go out there and be successful. And it's funny, I could tell you, I won't go on and on about it, but I could tell you some just wild stories, similar stories to, just digging in and just working hard and earning a position somewhere, or a promotion or whatever, by just sheer work ethic, right? And thinking, that's crazy. All I have to do is just show up and out hustle everybody, and I get this. That's amazing. It seems too easy, right? But
Yeah.
it's not easy. It's a lot of, like, literally blood, sweat, and tears. But I want to go back to something that you talked about with regard to active and passive, and what drives us to do these multifamily investments, right?
Yeah, please.
So I have these different levels and stages in my life. If I break it all down, and we talk about it a little bit throughout, just different seminars and stuff we've done, but is these different levels that I get to, and what that means when I get to that plateau. Like, okay, I'm here. Now what? Why did I get into another business? Why did I buy this next asset? Why didn't I retire? Or whatever. Like, my partner just retired at 43 to go full-time multifamily because he loves it. And he left a big corporate job, and he's like, I'm done with this. I'm making plenty of cash flow, and I'm done. I'm in. So I have 2 partners now with Sterling that are retired. And I'm one of the last ones, right? In my early 40s. Like, I could probably retire today, but I don't want to retire. I mean, I love this stuff, right?
Yeah.
So what would I do? Fish all day? Like, that's boring. So
Yeah.
my point is, why did we do this, and why do we do it? Well, the truth of the matter is that we're going to buy assets, and we're going to continue building cash flow and building these, this portfolio. But what really inspired me was, after many years in corporate America, as being an entrepreneur, a contractor, and just watching how challenging it was, and how your circumstances are dictated by someone else, right? We all know that if we work for Cutco or a sales department or whatever. And it was about that freedom, that peace of mind to control my own destiny, that drove me to want to build these larger assets, right? And I realized in that there are a lot of people just like me that are independent sales reps. They're corporate America people who are also grinding and desperately trying to figure out, how do I get out of the wheel on my own terms? I don't want to be in this until I'm 70 years old, right? And then not even have enough money when I get there. So the reason we really push and we educate, and we give. I mean, our investors will tell you, you talk to them, they can reach us anytime. We talk about all kinds of stuff. It's not just multifamily, whether they have business questions or whatever. And they love that. And we love that, because that's why we're in this space. We love helping others get to that same point that we're at today, right?
Yeah.
So the point is, what motivates you, inspires you? Well, it's actually teaching people how to get to that early retirement or cash flow, and sharing with them that same mindset of, I want to escape the rat race on my own terms. How do I do it?
Yeah, absolutely. Resonating all the way through. My tagline on my LinkedIn is like, I can help you retire sooner with passive commercial real estate investing, increase net worth, reduce taxes. I'm like, yep, there you go. And the corporate run, we went from a $12 million a year acquisition sales, right? The top line, 12, 24, 40, 57. And I'm in the boardroom with like the VP of finance and my VP, and we're all kind of, hey, chuckling. You did a great job. Did good year. Your quota's going up, and I'm like, yep, every freaking year. And the moment you stop working, that was kind of my big why. The moment you stop working, it's like, hey, the money stops coming in. So on the multifamily side, it's a very different space. So Hey, we're going to have to get you back on and talk about more. But with the last few minutes, let me make sure that we cover this, because you've written a book. You have a lot of great insights. If you've heard some on this show, which is amazing, you're going to get them from Chris's book as well. You've earned it. And also the proceeds go to Feeding America, and you fed hundreds of thousands of people through that. So talk a little bit about that, and tell us about, what you're doing there. That'd be awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Abel. I really appreciate that because we're very passionate about that. I've been involved in lots of different charities. I've done some mission work locally and helped mentor folks coming out of their challenges. And obviously, standing in food lines when I was a kid was really close to my heart. And there's obviously a lot of issues out there, but this one was real personal. So I partnered up with them as an enterprise partner. And as a result of that, they put me on their national website. So if you go there today, my profile is on there. It tells my story and it's got my photo right alongside of many other people that have great stories to tell, including a lot of, actors, musicians. Tony Robbins is on there. Tony struggled as a kid as well. And so through this enterprise partnership, every dollar that we donate, Tony Robbins matches. So our money goes a lot further, right? So literally every book you buy, and 100% indefinitely of our book profits, all of it will always go to Feeding America. We've never made a dollar off of it. But just to give you an example, if you download an ebook, right, it's $2.99 on Amazon, you feed somewhere around 20 people with the Tony Robbins match, because they're so efficient at feeding people. If you download an audiobook, it literally feeds over 80 people. I mean, it's really incredible for a $10 audiobook. You're feeding 80 people. Now, again, this isn't about promoting books because it's a story of mine. It's not even real estate based, but it inspires a lot of young people. If you read the reviews, that's all the parents talk about, is how much they wish they had this book when they were younger. They wish their kids would have had this book, and so on. So that's really what we're trying to do, is inspire young people and teach them that you really can become anything and do anything as long as you have the right mindset and the right mentors and the right work ethic, right? And then obviously, we want to continue doing that. We have a goal of 1 million people. I think by the end of the year, we're going to be just over 200,000 people fed. We started about a year ago, so we're really excited about that and hope to accelerate that. And we're working on another book that's more real estate based right now, which will probably be a free download or something. But we're talking about this really challenging deal we just closed. So,
well, that's awesome. Well, kudos to you. I love the mission. I love the mindset of impact, helping others. And number of ways, the book impacting people, but then also the profits of the book impacting other people that just want something to eat. Amen. Thank you, Lord, for all the hard work you're doing, man. So praise God for you, and continue to bless you and your mission and your journey, and just everything that you're doing. So if our investors, network, somebody trying to learn a few things about multifamily, and any of our listeners want to get a hold of you or try to get a little closer to you in your world, what's the best place for them to go?
Well, thank you. Absolutely. If you want to reach us, the best way to get a hold of us is going through our website, which is sterlingrhinocapital.com. And we encourage you to go in there and just play with our early retirement calculator. And you can go download it. You just put your name and email in there and you can opt out, but it'll get you into our newsletters. And then you can see the power of what multifamily can do. It's a really dynamic calculator. I think you'll love it. And then you can obviously sign up for our Get Started investor portal if you're interested in looking at some of the offerings we have. We have to develop a relationship with you. So we definitely want to see if you're a right fit. Mm-hmm. And then you can find us on Facebook at Investor Think Tank, Sterling Rhino Capital /Investor Think Tank. We've got a lot of really good content on YouTube. So I encourage you to go there and subscribe if you want to learn more about our calculator or how to save on taxes. I probably have 40 videos up there at least about every topic you can imagine. That's another great way to find us. And then you can email me at chris@sterlingrhinocapital.com.
Nice. Well, thanks, Chris. Is there anything else we didn't touch on today that you wanted to bring some exposure to, we didn't hit on? You were hoping I asked and I never got to. Any of those last pearls of wisdom or nuggets, insights, anything really that you'd like to cover?
I'll leave your listeners with one thing to consider. Obviously, there's lots of ways to be inspired and drive and motivate and all that. But I would just say, really sit down and think about what your goal is in life, and whether it's part of your family and giving back and or making money, and just sit down and focus and get out of your own way. There's way too much pondering and thinking, and I'm trying to be perfect before I execute and all of that. If you work hard, you will work your way through most of the mistakes. but you got to get started and just get out of your own way. So figure out that value proposition and just grind, and you're going to have some success. And I just wish you all the luck in the world.
All right. I love it. Chris, thank you so much for your time. I sincerely appreciate it. And I know our listeners got a little bit more value than they were expecting. So if you were on the road or jogging or something, I encourage you to go back to the house, get a pen, a piece of paper. I took down a couple of pages of notes myself at least. And hopefully this is something you can rewind and replay again. So Chris, thank you. And again, I'm your host, Abel Pacheco with the 5 Talents Podcast. We would love you to subscribe, rate, and review our show. We kind of feed off of the ranking system, the algorithms that the podcast is used. So if you can help boost it, we can get more amazing guests like Chris. So thank you very much, Chris. Thanks for your time, man.
Hey, thank you, Abel. And don't forget to check out the Mission of Multifamily, man. You guys are doing some good work over there.
Oh yeah. Thank you very much. Look forward to it.
Thanks, Abel.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the 5 Talents Podcast with your host, myself, Abel Pacheco. Each week, we're going to bring you interviews from industry experts and commercial real estate investors who followed their dreams and achieved massive success. Before you leave, let me ask you a few questions. Did you enjoy this episode? Did you learn something valuable? Was your mind stretched to what's possible and what you can achieve? Do you want other experts just like the one you heard today? If you answered yes to any or all of those questions, then please take a moment to subscribe to the 5 Talents Podcast, give us a 5-star rating, and most importantly, leave us a written review. Tell us what you liked, tell us your favorite guest, give us any feedback. I'm excited to learn and improve so you can get a more valuable show. So thank you again for subscribing to the 5 Talents Podcast.